Seen. Okay, cool. So that's good. That's good. We got the first bit out. So now we do it again. So once again, same intro. You go first.
I already forgot how I said it.
We're the Counsel of Casuals. My name's Russ.
Hi, we're the Counsel of Casuals.
No, don't. You interrupted me.
Hi,
Okay, you go.
we're the Counsel of Casuals. I'm Russ,
I'm Will.
and we thought we'd go over some Precon upgrades for the Fallout set.
Yep. And the deck I chose to upgrade is the Science deck. Ooh, Science. Okay, so the deck I wanted to update was Science, and for a couple of reasons I'll go over later. But first, let's go over some of the upgrades. Now, I will preface, although we had a limit of 10, I did add more cards, so I'm kind of just highlighting.
you're cheating, yeah.
I am, just a little bit. But first of all, we're going to talk about just taking out a land. The deck originally had, I believe, 37 lands, which is a little heavy, but we did take out 3 lands, and there's only one of the lands we took out. And what we ended up replacing it with is this really cool Aether Hub. My goal with this rebuild was to really play into the energy angle.
Theming, yes.
Exactly. And also on top of that, you know, if you look back at the set where energy first came out, there was kind of an artificer angle versus the artifact angle. And for this deck, I ended up going the artifact route. So
there must be some good staples you've chosen that aren't necessarily energy themed then.
no, I'd say they're all energy.
Oh, okay.
Every single card is energy. But the thing is, the artificers, like certain artificer like labeling and stuff like that, or text in the cards. But going the artifact angle, especially with, and I think now's a good time to go over Dr. Madison Lee. She reads whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy. So the way I approach this deck is kind of mid-rangey in the sense that whenever I play a low-cost artifact, I get an energy, right? Now, the biggest issue with this deck is actually the payoffs. There aren't that many great payoffs in energy. Yeah, there's not a ton, which I think with, and this is a good little hint for everyone trying to buy some of the precons moving forward, in Modern Horizons 3, they are releasing an energy precon. And of course, on the box it says huge payoff, so Wizards has to be telling us the truth. But anyway, either way, I thought buying this deck and then modifying it with that deck down the line is probably a good way to approach it. So the next bit we're going to go over here are some of the creatures that we went ahead and removed, and I wanted to go over these 2 creatures first. Red Death Shipwrecker, cool crab, not for this deck. And then Sean, Father of Synths. It's interesting, but I think more than anything, I'm thinking about casting artifacts. And the last card I want to go over in terms of creatures that we removed is actually the Motherlode, which does play into the energy theme, but it is a little wonky, and the payoff is really just destroying lands. It does have an element of creatures not blocking, but overall, this deck, what it really needs, if you're going to play the artifact energy angle, it needs payoffs.
Is it destroying the enemy lands?
Yes, it destroys enemy
or opponents.
When you do destroy target non-basic land, defending player controls, and they can't block.
And that's kind of like the cardinal sin in Magic.
Yeah, and Commander specifically.
So you're hoping more for like a big swingy kind of.
In a way, yeah, but I think really mid-rangey is the best way I would explain the deck. And I mean that kind of plays into some of the other cards we have here. Taking a look at the 3 cards we went ahead and added that I think are pretty big is Gonti's Aether Heart, Dynavolt Tower, and Aetherworks Marvel. Gonti's is huge because whenever a creature or artifact enters the whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters right off the bat.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Is that limited to once per turn or something?
No. It is whenever an artifact comes into play, which is why I say whenever artifacts come into play. And for this upgrade, I've seen other people removing the talismans from this deck.
And it's enters, so you could use tokens and stuff too.
Yeah. So I kept the talismans because I've seen other videos where they remove the talismans, and really they're just cheap ways to play artifacts. If you have anything that reduces the cost of artifacts in your deck, which I do have a couple of ways to get that done, basically you're playing artifacts for free, which will then generate you even more energy for free. And I think the real MVP of this deck, and I didn't have it here because we're just going over upgrades, is Mystic Forge. Mystic Forge is huge for this deck, especially when you have so many cheap artifacts, because you're basically playing artifacts from the top of your deck the whole game.
There are a lot of colorless reductions in the game too.
Yeah, and if you generate a ton of mana through Dr. Madison Lee, she does have a draw effect to her. So when you run out of things to remove off the top of your deck, you draw a card, right? Now the other two cards we have here are pretty cool. Dynavolt Tower, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get 2 energy, right? And it also deals damage, but really we're just here for the energy generation.
I would like to ask a hypothetical.
Yeah.
How much energy would you like to see per card to say it paid for itself?
I think with the artifact reduction I have in the deck, I'm not terribly concerned about the energy paying off, but if you do have the correct cards in play, like Panharmonicon, right? Yeah. Then and you have some of these out, right? Let's say you have Gonti's Aether Heart, right? And you have Panharmonicon, right? You play an artifact creature, right? What's that going to do? That'll trigger Dr. Madison Lee twice, so that's 2 energies right there. And then on top of that, off Gonti's, you will also get 4 energy. So from playing 1 artifact, you can get 4 energy. 6 energy, 6.
So it's not that the card pays for itself, it's that the synergies pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
And the big thing are the payoffs, specifically with these 2 cards, Gonti's, and then the last card I was going to talk about, Aetherworks Marvel. Aetherworks Marvel is probably the most valuable card in the deck, or one of the most valuable cards in the deck, because by paying 6 energy, you look at the top 6 cards of your library, and you can cast a card without paying its mana cost. So that's pretty huge, and that's why I like the mid-range angle of this too, because you pull up some options for yourself, and really, you just want to play as many artifacts as possible. Okay? So, moving on to more things we took out, we also ended up taking out these 2 cards. They are artifacts, but they suck. Camp is just bad. It doesn't play into the theme. For the equipment deck, for Fallout, the junk deck, it does have a camp synergy with it, right? That makes a little more sense. But just in this deck, it's just standalone, does whatever it wants on its own. It has no synergy with anything else. And then expert level safe is interesting because although it is an artifact, it's very one-dimensional, and it has something where your opponent picks a number in secret, and then if you pick the same number, then,
kind of like a politicky.
Yeah, but it's in secret, so you're not even supposed to know what the number is technically. Okay. So it's like it's really risky. You might not get anything off of it. It might just sit on your field the whole game, and you might not do anything with it. So instead of these 2 cards, we went ahead and looked at what cards are advantageous in artifact decks, which these are staples for any artifact deck. You have Psy. Whenever you cast an artifact, you create a 1/1 Thopter token. And then on top of that, you also have Padim, which gives all your artifacts hexproof. I have quite a bit of artifact protection in this deck, and I think that in the long run, that just pays off. So these 2 cards are pretty much just gimmies, especially when you're playing heavily into artifacts. And I mean, you're going to generate tokens, and all those tokens will have hexproof and potentially Ward 1, and among other things. So you also have other cards that give it protection too. So these are no-brainers. Onto other cards we also removed. And we're just going to go over the last cards that we removed, although we did remove more. These 4 cards. Nerd Rage, Open the Vaults, Vault 13, Dweller's Journey, and Over Encumbered. Over Encumbered does not play into the strategy at all. It just doesn't. It's not good. Vault 13, we played this in one of our games, and we did not have any idea how it worked. More specifically, I didn't have any idea how it worked. And it basically just exiles 1 card, which can be good, but it takes 3 turns to exile it too. So it kind of just sits on the field.
Kind of a sleeper.
Yeah, but it's really ineffective more than anything else. You know, you exile 1 card, but you pay 4 mana.
So 4 mana for a 3-turn mild effect.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty weak. Now, Nerd Rage is if you have a ton of cards in your hand, you know, your creature gets 10/10, you draw cards. I mean, it's okay, but once again, I think there's just better cards that play into the strategy.
It's not how I Nerd Rage.
Exactly. You just drank tons of root beer.
No, on here it's Code Red.
Oh, there you go. Code Red. And then the last card, this one might be a little bit of a question mark for some people to Open the Vaults. I did think some other people removed it, and the main reason I'm removing it is because we already have a great way to pull artifacts from our graveyard.
Is that the Wake the whatever
Yes,
it's called?
Wake the
Past?
Yes, there you go. Wake the Past. Basically, Wake the Past will bring back your artifacts, but Open the Vaults will bring back everyone's artifacts. And, you know, your opponents might not have those artifacts, but let's not play that game, right? Now, those are the last of the removals, but these last 4 cards, in my opinion, I will say are maybe the most interesting cards that I've gone ahead and added. Now, I'm sure if most of you go on EDH Rec, you'll see that, you know, these are pretty common picks, but I think if you're looking at this deck from 2 different angles, you know, it's hard to choose whether to add some of these cards or not. First of all, Harnessed Lightning. This is great removal. Basically, if you see a target creature, I mean, it could be a huge creature. With the amount of energy you get through this deck, you'll basically be able to remove any creature via damage, right, with Harnessed Lightning. Now, the other ad here, it's not an artifact, but it is a huge payoff for this deck, which is Lightning Runner. Lightning Runner has double strike and haste. It's a 2/2, but when it attacks, you get 2 energy counters, but you can also pay 8 energy to get an extra combat. I think that's pretty cool. I think that maybe with the next Precon that comes out for energy-based cards, this card will probably be a lot bigger. But this card is definitely a big win con for the deck. And then by the way, Wake the Past, folks. This is the card that you want to keep rather than open the vaults. But the last 2 cards here. Now, these cards are massive. These cards are huge because these cards are both your payoffs and your engines, okay? First of all, Joyra. Let's highlight Joyra real quick here. Russell's going to go ahead and grab me a card real quick. This card. Why is this combination so good? Now, something you'll learn about me is I hate playing infinite combos. I'm just not that guy. But what Mystic Forge does is it gives you value without being completely absurd. So, what you're going to do is whenever you pull an artifact off the top of your deck with Mystic Forge, you get to play that artifact, right? Now, here's the thing. Whenever you play that artifact, Joyra triggers. You then get to draw a card, right? So it's a great way to kind of get through your deck, and if you continue to get through your deck, whether it's playing artifacts, legendary creatures, I mean, the goal is to get as much stuff out in one turn, and then, you know, you'll have so much energy that you'll be able to, you know, get an extra turn through Gonti's, you know, Aether Heart, whatever it is, you know, there's tons of ways to win from there.
I think it's okay to talk about Sensei's Taco, by the way. Like, I know you don't like infinite combos, but...
Well, yeah, I think it would be good. Did that fit in my budget? No. But I think just these 2 cards alone, you'll have a lot of fun playing these 2 cards. That's the big thing. You'll feel like your deck is very strong without, you know, being in a pod where everyone's decks are really underpowered, and you'll feel like you're just running away with the game. You know, this produces a pretty competitive game. And then the last card that I thought was really, really interesting is, and this might be the sleeper pick of the deck, Electrostatic Pummeler. Now, why is this card so good? Because it is the closest thing to a win con that we'll get. Okay, so when it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters and a 3 mana for a 1/1. Pretty crappy. I mean, can't curse. Pretty shiz nasty.
No, pick another one.
Pretty.
No, pick another one.
Pretty.
Skip.
Okay.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Rewind. Okay. But Electrostatic Pummeler. What's great about this card is you pay 3 energy and it gets 1/1 until end of turn, where it's its power. So when you cast it all in its first time, it becomes a 2/2. But let's say you cast it again, right? And you can cast this all in the same turn. You can pay the energy at instant speed. All of a sudden, it'll become a 4/4.
Are you saying to cast the spell?
No, you use its effect.
Okay.
So you pay 3, it becomes a 2/2. You pay another 3, it becomes a 4/4. You pay another 3,
Sure.
it becomes an 8/8, 16/16, 32/32, 64/64.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, I was just checking your math, man. I just want to make sure you're right. But this card, I think that if you're in a tight spot and you're really looking for a way to, you know, I think this brings a lot of character.
I guess it's an energy dump. So if you
Yeah.
if you swing, can you spend energy at instant speed? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Like during combat, damage set, whatever it is, if someone decides to block, you pay energy. It makes it pretty hard to block. And I mean, if you have your cards out that protect artifacts, I mean, all the more reason this card will be harder and harder to remove, right? If it's hexproof, has Shroud,
It is a lot of ifs, but at the very least, it's forcing your opponent to block.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm never the type to play like the insanely easy, combos in a deck. Like, I like a little bit of a challenge. So for me, this card is a cool way to get to a win, especially because it's just a 3-mana 1/1.
Sure, plus you're using the energies, the thing the deck's built around.
Yeah, and then the last thing to take a look at.
Yeah, I know you went over your 10, that's fine. I think these are perfectly relevant to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. There is no cost reduction in the deck right now. Well, not right now, but as a Precon. So I thought these are pretty much auto adds if you are going the artifact route. If you are going the artifact route, I mean, this is really...
Yeah, it just lets you spam them faster.
Yeah, I mean, let's say a card like Electrostatic Pummeler. Let's say you have Mystic Forge. Let's say you have Mystic Forge and you have Joyra on the battlefield, right? Basically, Electrostatic Pummeler off the top of your deck is free, and you get to draw a card, right? With this setup right here.
And I suppose, do you have a lot of mana rocks in the deck?
A good amount.
Yeah, so in addition to ramping traditionally, they also act as ramp. So
Exactly.
just in general, your game speeds up.
Oh, exactly. And I think that the Precon alone, it was a little muddled. But with cards like Mystic Forge, which was already there, but also Joyra, and then...
I gotta say, I liked some of the reprints, like Panharmonicon and
I do.
Mystic Forge.
I appreciate those cards a lot, and I think that when the Modern Horizons Precon comes out, either I'm an idiot and spent money on cards that they're gonna print in that deck, or they're not gonna print them, and we're gonna see the value of a lot of these cards go up. Just to accommodate that strategy. So cards like Gonti's Aether Heart.
Plus, now you
Aetherworks
have
Marvel.
the ability to pioneer the deck.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, when that next Precon comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have cards like Gonti's Aether Heart or Aetherworks Marvel, just because these are really the two aces of the energy.
Yeah, but then
engine.
the downside there is you already have those, so the reprint value is not as good for you.
Well, let's see if they reprint it. We never know. We haven't seen the deck list yet.
But then you're only buying like 98 cards.
Yeah. But we'll see. But either way, that is my update to the Science deck.
Nope, try again.
Science!
No, stop.
Science!
All right, we're done.
Wow!
Goodbye, folks.